Hi, and welcome to this live stream episode on the topics of unlearning. And this seasonal topic is about unlearning bad workshop tactics. And so far, we have covered areas such as the preparations, the agendas, the dynamics. And today, we're going to focus on the facilitation itself. So I encourage you to ask any questions you might have either live or in the aftermaths of this session, and I'll pick them up and answer them as soon as I can. So welcome to you, and I hope this will be interesting and maybe generate some new ideas or remind yourself about things that you can continue to unlearn in your own workshop adventure. Let us get to the topic for today more in detail. And as always, I would like to just stress the fact that this is important. The whole notion of unlearning is important because we are living in a time where we need to adapt quickly, we need to be agile, we need to reconsider things that we have learned in the past and that might not serve us so well anymore. So in order to do that, we need to be conscious about what we are going to unlearn and why. And it takes some effort to unlearn. So the reason I'm focusing on this is because it's really important to master how to unlearn successfully in your own professional life. When it comes to unlearning in the sense of workshops, it's typically important or interesting maybe to focus on different phases. Sometimes it's very easy to focus on maybe this is about the preparation work or the total execution of the workshop itself, but also maybe the following up activities. And sometimes the topic for today goes across all of these different phases. So for today, of course, I'm going to focus mainly on the execution itself. And I think some of my examples will bring your memory back and maybe highlight some successes, but also some mistakes done in the past, and what actually to do to unlearn some of these things that we can prepare for in advance. When it comes to successfully unlearn something, it's important that we do that in 3 different steps. And over time, this becomes more conscious, but we need to understand what is it that we want to unlearn. So we need to understand what it is, understand the facts behind that, and also then decide upon a changed perspective. So let's say if this doesn't serve me anymore, if I always used to run workshops like this, right now there seems to be demand for other things, or it didn't turn out successfully. What can I focus on? How can I change my perspective? So this will be valuable to the way I perform as a facilitator, but also to the participants. And having that in mind always, that changing the perspective keeps focus on the things we need to change. And this is about changing behavior. And in order to be successful at changing behavior, we need, of course, to practice. So whatever strategies we need to unlearn and to practice, that will be important as well to specify. It will take time, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe some months, maybe even years, who knows. But the key thing is that we keep a conscious eye onto the facts, the change perspective, and the necessity to practice and learn from what we discover when we are unlearning things. Sometimes it takes quite a while to unlearn, and we need to understand that if we don't keep the perspective and the focus, we will gravitate back to the behavior we had in the past, which is what we want to avoid, obviously. Let's dive into the key topics for today, because it's about the facilitation itself. And basically, I don't think I'm alone in having experienced that as a facilitator, when you experience lack of trust or lack of engagement or lack of commitment, it doesn't really feel like you have been successful in your facilitation of the workshop. So either you experience one of these, or worst case, several or even all of them. So then what can you do in order to address that? Of course, lack of trust. That has to do with showing up, not only during the day, but also before the day itself, before the actual exercise. Showing up in an honest way, be open about certain things, maybe be vulnerable about previous experiences, and tell the stakeholders and the key people attending what you want to really unlearn and what you have done in the past and what you want to do differently this time. So make yourself part of that learning experience. And being vulnerable is something that really builds trust to a high degree. And of course, as a facilitator, you need to also make sure that the people feel that you are helpful, that you show that you care about them and the content and the results of the day. So all of that, honesty, vulnerability, admitting any mistakes from the past, showing up as helpful, as caring, will serve you and build trust. Meanwhile, I'm just going to show one of the comments I got here. I'm not alone, exactly. So I guess we can all recognize some of these situations. And thank you, Magdalena, for letting me know. And I can tell you that even though we are conscious about these things, it's easily so that we will face the similar challenges again. When it comes to lack of engagement, this is a nightmare, of course, for a facilitator, because you really want people to be excited about the day. You want them to feel that this is worthwhile investing in when it comes to time and money. And a lack of engagement is not the best sign in case you're looking for certain results. So what you need to prepare yourself in doing is, of course, have a variety of, or a smorgasbord of icebreakers, so different type of activities that you can use if you feel that the engagement level is declining. And you need to vary the way you run these exercises, so you have this level of surprise also throughout the day. And not only vary, but also check in and take people aside and check in what they think about it, if they need something more, what advice they would give, and so on. So you really engage with them, both as a group, but also individually. Then I can't stress enough the importance of actually, as a facilitator, to explain the exercises properly. I've seen it so many times as a participant, but also I've gone through that mistake myself as a facilitator, that I sometimes assume that the audience is familiar with a certain exercise, or that they understand the instructions without me really checking that they have understood. So a good piece of advice is, of course, as a facilitator, to really make sure to spend significant time on explaining and making sure that all participants actually understand and can ask any questions they might have. That will, of course, add to the engagement level in a positive way as well. And then you might say, so what happens if I have a number of more introvert persons in the room, or there is some kind of lack of energy? People might not be, I would say, comfortable in sharing or discussing openly. What should I do? And here we come to one of the most important parts of the workshop. It shouldn't favor either the extroverts or the introverts, but it's important to really make the best use of both preferences. So the full concept of the workshop is to create synergies in a group of people throughout working together. And you can work together alone, and you can work together. So it means that you, in the way as a facilitator, you can vary the way you run exercises, that you allow people to work individually, to reflect, to feel safe when they come up with maybe anonymous suggestions, and then work together with the others in order to discuss and to vote and to anchor the ideas and the decisions being made throughout the exercise. So working together, alone and together, will be a key part to make sure that the engagement level is kept alive. And then finally, lack of commitment. That is really, really difficult. If you feel that we had a nice day together, but really what came out of it? What did we decide? Is it clear who is responsible or not? Probably not. What you need to make sure is that there is a clear understanding of roles and responsibilities throughout and after the workshop. And the best, of course, is to have a tool at hand that you can document that and get the buy-in along the day. And there are tools available now that you can use, both if you run a workshop on a distance, but also if you run it in on a physical location together with all of the participants. There will always be, at least in the great workshops, there will always be things that will not be assigned or decided upon, and those should be put onto the parking lot. So you will just collect them and you will bring them forward, but they will be kept out of the workshop results, but they will be documented in a way that can be addressed at a different point in time. So sometimes if you feel that the results are being derailed, that this is going in a totally different direction, you need to make sure that the results are aligned with expectations, but do not, I would say, deselect other things popping up because they are valuable as well. But put them on the parking lot and make sure that they can be addressed afterwards. And then we come to something that might be the most important part, which I learned the hard way, I can tell you that. And that has to do with lacking commitment in times of, and people leave the workshop and they have this feeling of, yeah, it was okay. We came to certain conclusions and we made decisions, but there are still some things that, I'm not sure that we really came up with the very best solution. So in order to avoid that situation, leaving them with something that seems to be incomplete, it's important to offer some type of follow-up meeting. So that means that in order to unlearn here, I've stopped actually running workshops where there is a, I would say, final hour of the day, and that makes the end of it. I'm always incorporating a follow-up meeting 4 to 8 weeks afterwards. The reason is that creates a lot of safety and it creates a lot of creativity. So when we meet again, things might have happened. We might have gotten more details or more insights or reflected a bit more, which can be really, really helpful. And I call it actually to give the participants permission to incubate over time. So let it rest with them, check in, and then when you have the follow-up meeting, you are in a very good position to actually conclude a number of things. So that would be my recommendation, to really make sure that you get as much commitment as you can, because it's easy to buy in if you don't feel pressured to make a too hasty decision and leaving that workshop with this unfulfilled notion to it. Okay, so we talked about facilitating and what we need to unlearn and do better when it comes to building trust, engagement, and commitment throughout the workshop. As always, I would love to challenge you with a specific question from this topic. And my question to you would be the following. As a facilitator, what is it that you need to prepare in advance? How can you be as equipped as possible about things that are not communicated in advance? So what do you think you need to have as a backup plan or as an additional set of exercises and tips and tricks to make sure to manage the potential lack of trust or potential lack of engagement or commitment? What do you need to prepare yourself mentally and maybe also physically to obtain that? Next topic next week will be about unlearning bad workshop dilemmas. And I'll focus on 3 specific dilemmas, which I think will be known to many of you. So I'm looking forward to tapping in again next week and hope to have some more comments and ideas about those topics then. Meanwhile, if you are looking to dive more into the details about how to prepare and execute and follow up workshop successfully, you have already access to my workshop insight session, which is a 20-minute pre-recorded video that you can take part of by attending or registering via bit.ly/workshop hacks. And that will give you a lot of key questions that you should ask yourself before your next workshop, covering both the preparations, the execution, and the follow-up period. So with that, I want to thank you for tapping in today, and I wish you the best of luck with workshops, and I wish you successful preparations, and also hopefully some insights, 1 or 2, and that you prepare that plan B and C as you need to. I have a comment here as well. And Magdalena is saying that she's thankful and that she's taking the importance of follow-up. Example. That is really the most important thing, to make sure that they leave on a high note. And if you need to make sure that there's a process in place, either by preparing, having meetings in advance, conducting the workshop itself, and then having this follow-up meeting, that is worthwhile, because it will create a process and you will be able to get your arms around so much more and add so much more value also to the participants. So thank you, Magdalena. I really appreciate your sharing, and best of luck with workshops, and I hope to see you again next week. Take care. Bye.